Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. How are you? Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, now we will come to today's news. And the FBI has been busted once again, labeling our military members as domestic terrorists. Of course, they go after parents and label them domestic terrorists anyway. That's against the regime. Anybody against the communist regime, anybody against a Marxist regime, anybody against these types of ideologies, is considered an enemy of the state. To the FBI will go after people within the military. If you're a school, if you're a parent, if you're a regular individual, maybe you're out, somebody wants to go out and protest against your government, somehow you are now labeled a domestic terrorist, because the regime could not have any legitimate pushback against its overreach across the country, because many Americans are realizing where this nation is headed. And they don't like it, and they're speaking out, and standing up, and they're protesting, they're making their voices heard. And they govern current government system along with the FBI, these intelligence agencies that who all need to be dispersed in and taken out of the government, should no longer be part of the government, should be defunded. And now even replaced, but I'm not looking to replace, we need to defund all of these institutions who continue to target everyday Americans with their BS labels of domestic terrorism. So let's go and dive into this. It's coming to us over here on Jack Pacific's Twitter account, and says this is coming from, of course, Project Veritas, and it says this: breaking by Project Veritas, FBI whistleblower leaks Bureau's domestic terrorism symbols guide on militia violent extremists, citing Ashley Babbitt document references to Second Amendment, the Garrison flag, Revolutionary War imagery, and the Betsy Ross flag. That's right. That's right. They view you as the enemy. Here it is: the FBI, the militia violent extremism, the anarcho-capitalism, the Punisher skull, that warrior culture, Second Amendment, the common take-it flag, the electrical resistance symbol, the black flag, the goddess unflagged, Revolutionary War imagery, Liberty Tree, Betsy Ross flag. Notice you haven't seen any of the BLM imagery, right? Or the Antifa imagery, have you? Of course not, because they're paid and bought for by the regime. And doesn't end here. If we look further, of course, they have to include the significant events Ruby Ridge, if you're talking about Ruby Ridge or Waco, and if you're talking about Ashley Babbitt, you are considered a domestic terrorist at this point now by these people, the 3%ers, the Oathkeepers. American can't really make out contingency, I think maybe that's what that says, up there. Yeah. They continue to update this to make sure that you are the enemy of the state, not the state. The state is it's okay with making sure that it squashes out any type of distance. And if that includes going after people that have those types of apparel, or self-identify in those areas, then so be it. But if you're Black Lives Matter, if you're the Antifa and you fly the Marxist fist out on your flags up there, you're okay with the government, you're okay because you're doing their work. You're the ones who are the foot soldiers heading out there busting on businesses, and making sure that people are scared to congregate or even vote a certain way because you're a threat to burning down to their cities. And you'll never be punished because you'll be bailed out by DBAs. You'll be let out of prison, you won't face stiff jail sentences, because it's all part of their scheme. So as the FBI continues to ensure that the everyday citizen of this country is labeled domestic terrorists, make sure you're getting in touch with your representative, your senator, and demanding them that they defund the FBI, CIA, the whole shebang. It is time for these agencies who have gone rogue and who have decided to turn their scope and target American citizens in this country. It's time for them to be disbanded. And I'm talking about Senator Tim Scott, who has shown his true affiliation to the Rhino. Mitch McConnell, establishment GOP. By the way, Tim Scott, who delivered the rebuttal speech, and was garnering talks of he should run for president. Now, it would be interesting, folks, let's put race aside, let's put politics aside, actually doesn't make any sense, given what I'm about to say. But wouldn't it be interesting to see a black conservative president, whether it be male or female? That would mean that America has truly advanced? Because, for a black conservative to be president of the United States, that would mean that first of all, it would mean that the Democrat Party is completely finished. And with their pulling the wool over the eyes of, unfortunately, still many black Americans, the opposition from the Democrat side over a black conservative president would be greater, I think, or equal to what we're seeing with President Trump. It would absolutely flip their lid. Now, we know on the conservative side, there'd be no problem with this. For the most part, the actual bigots are on the left. And that's where the opposition would have come from. This person would have to be squeaky clean with absolutely nothing in their closet. A guy, and I'm not that I would do it. A guy like me, I have nothing in my closet. I have nothing in my closet whatsoever. There's nothing that could go back and find on me ever on anything. You need a guy like that, except I'm not running. And that'd be tough by the time you get into the positions if this person is already a politician, that they'd find something. I mean, I don't like Mittens Romney, but the guy was pretty squeaky clean as far as I remember. That rolled out, oh, he shaved someone's head once. I mean, CNN ran with that. But this is how Tim Scott has come out of the closet. He just endorsed Lisa Murkowski. This is what he tweeted out yesterday. We need strong leaders like Lisa Murkowski. Someone who has worked tirelessly for the people of Alaska her entire career. Alaska, please join me in supporting Lisa for Senate. In other words, Tim Scott is going against who President Trump is backing. In other words, he is doing the bidding of the Mitch McConnell Rhino Republican swamp. He also endorsed Never Trumper and another Rhino, Nancy Mace. And South Carolina didn't know much about Tim Scott, wasn't really interested in him, but he's advanced no significant legislation. And has a good story, but doesn't have many accomplishments. So, and he's never said anything about what happened a couple years ago. He's been pretty silent on that. So there you have it. Okay, folks, looking here at Nancy Pelosi, who yesterday met with Taiwan's president, saying that the United States will not abandon its commitment to the island. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi reiterated that the U.S. commitment to Taiwan, while holding a joint press conference with Taiwan President. Today the world faces a choice between democracy and autocracy. America's determination to preserve democracy here in Taiwan and around the world remains ironclad. Or should it be nice if we didn't have autocratic tyranny in the United States, so we could actually flex from a position of authority? But given the current regime, that is just rhetoric. China fired today. Well, looks like it was last night for us today, Thursday in Taiwan, who's going to saw the world, therefore, a little bit ahead of us. Anyway, China fired several Dongfeng ballistic missiles into waters near Taiwan on Thursday. And of course, this drew condemnation from Taiwan's defense ministry. They, at 6 p.m. local time, they had said that there was a total of 11 of these missiles fired into the ocean on overlapping waters of Taiwan and China. Now, of course, they said all this is part of a live-fire military drill that, of course, they only announced on Monday as a deterrent to Nancy Pelosi going to the island nation. China, I'm not saying that they should do anything. But China is, luckily for everyone, seems to be all talk and very little bite, which is exactly what we want. We do not want war. We do not want war in the region. We don't want war anywhere. Okay, let me just show you the interesting things going on in Arizona when it comes to the Charolais gubernatorial race, and this prolonged counts. Okay, so first of all, they said that they would have the results by 7 p.m. They were an hour late. And here's what we have. After all was said and done, they added almost 5,205,188 to be exact, from Maricopa County to the Republican governor race. And the current breakdown of that batch is Kari Lake 48.9%. To Taylor Robson 43.4%. So that is the latest update. If we get more updates throughout the day, I will give it to you. By the way, Maricopa County's website shows that Kari Lake is behind 1%. But she won all the other counties across the state. Alright. Check this out. This is one of those headlines that gets your attention and then you get into the meat of it. And the story changes a little bit. Richmond, Virginia police dropped charges against men tied to July 4th mass shooting plot. Now, I reported on this at the time that there were 2 illegal alien men who Guatemalan illegal immigrant Julio Alba Alvarado Newborn and Roman Bars bought. Scottsdale by Vargas. Okay. They were arrested on July 1st and July 5th respectively. And were charged of being non-US citizens in possession of firearms, if you recall, or if you don't want to give you the details. Someone overheard their plot call them in and it was stored it. Okay, but what's going on here is, yes, police in Richmond, Virginia have dropped charges against the 2 men who were arrested for allegedly plotting this mass shooting event. But what happened was yesterday the Richmond Commonwealth Attorney's Office filed a motion to drop the charges against the two suspects so that they could turn the case over to the federal government. These are two illegal aliens with guns, so we wanted them prosecuted at the highest level possible. So they're being turned over to the feds. Virginia police dropped charges against the men, but that's because they're going to be up on federal charges. Okay. So let's talk about what's going on. Well, before we get there, since we're talking about illegal immigration, let me show you what Dr. Roger Marshall did. Okay. He's a U.S. Senator for Kansas. He stood up yesterday, and he introduced a resolution, the kind of resolution that is going to be the doctrine probably when Kari Lake becomes governor of Arizona. And that is why we're seeing what we're seeing in Arizona when it comes to that GOP primary race. This is Dr. Roger Marshall, once again, Senator from Kansas. Everyone listen to this, he said. All right, yes, passage for my unanimous consent, my resolution to express the sense of the Senate. But the unprecedented crisis at the southern border constitutes an invasion of the United States of America. Okay, a resolution that recognizes that the unprecedented crisis at the southern border is an invasion. I don't know, I see videos, and they're mostly military-aged men, any other time in history, any other place except for maybe Europe, which is having a similar manufactured crisis. When you have military-age foreign men coming into your country, that is an invasion. Whether they're armed or not, they could be spies. And they've caught spies and quite terrorists, as well as a slew of unwanted and deviant criminals. But he's got more to say about this resolution, which I hope gets taken up. And everyone listen to this, he said. And that is the constitutional right of safe governors to repel the dangerous ongoing invasion across the southern border. I encourage my colleagues to support this resolution because the federal government has failed. All right. So Dr. Marshall, Senator Marshall is outlining here that the southern border is an invasion and governors have a right to repel that is why they are not too happy about Kari Lake because she has been very, very outspoken about the border crisis and how she's going to stop it. And here we have a U.S. Senator introducing a resolution that recognizes the border crisis as an invasion, and wants to aid governors in their efforts to stop this dangerous situation. Intentionally or unintentionally, to uphold its obligations to protect. I encourage my colleagues to support this resolution because the federal government has failed, intentionally or unintentionally, to uphold its obligations to protect the states from invasion under Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution. He says that this is being done, intentionally or unintentionally. Senator Marshall is being political here. It is intentional, or as I phrase it, by design. It's by design is not an accident. It's not unintentional. During this campaign to become president, Joe Biden made it clear to the entire world that if he became president, America would be open, not open for business, but that our southern border would be open, wide open for anyone and everyone to violate our nation's immigration laws. And that is why it was by design. He made the invitation and they came. Okay, let's go over to Michigan. We have something very interesting happening in Michigan. We have a very corrupt governor, fighting and winning right now to get their way. A county judge in Michigan issued an extended order yesterday stopping the enforcement of a 1931 abortion ban, just days before the State Court of Appeals upheld the law. How does a county judge extend an order to stop the enforcement of a law that was upheld by the Court of Appeals? Seems like the Court of Appeals is higher than the county judge. Let me explain. Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Father restraining order out to the Court of Appeals ruled that county prosecutors could go ahead and enforce the state's abortion ban. Hours later, Oakland County Judge Jacob Cunningham granted the restraining order prohibiting prosecutors in counties with abortion providers from enforcing the 1931 law. The order was extended until the next hearing on August 17. Lawlessness law. Gretchen Whitmer, I love you, my Michigan Patriots. You guys have a tough. Michigan is a tough state to be. MAGA America First, a patriot, American loving, freedom loving. You have an absolute tyrant. And the FBI charge you that plot to convince us that the dangerous people were on the right. Michigan's decades-old ban makes it a crime to perform the procedure unless the life of the mother is in danger. It does not protect even against incest or rape. One of the strictest, I should say, such laws in the nation. When we didn't like it, even though it's upheld by the appellate court that it could be if a woman dies in a procedure in the state, the provider is looking at manslaughter charges. Women didn't like it, doesn't like the other people, doesn't like the laws. So she got her judge to issue an injunction to stop the enforcement. Wow. The lawlessness continues. Now, they didn't do this to Hillary Clinton. But hell, are they doing it to Trump's folks? The Justice Department is suing civilly. This is a civil suit. Drive Peter Navarro to compel him to produce Trump White House emails. Okay, let's not forget that the FBI arrested him and made a whole show of this, not quite Roger Stone style, but you get the picture. The DOJ is working to compel Navarro to turn over emails from a non-official email account to send and receive messages constituting presidential records. Now, there's a little bit of good news for some of us in this. The DOJ has been compelling him to turn over the non-official email account of Dr. Peter Navarro. They can't get at it. They can't get the provider to give them the information that appears because the provider is ProtonMail. I've been using ProtonMail for years, or out of Switzerland. They're secure, their private email. That Justice Department on Wednesday sued former Donald Trump trade advisor Peter Navarro in an effort to force muttering over emails from his tenure in the White House. This is political. Navarro, who works for the White House during the entirety of Trump's presidency, had used at least one non-official email account to send and receive messages constituting presidential records. That gets his department sent in. A court filing attorney has also accused him of wrongfully retaining them in violation of federal record-keeping laws, as in abroad did not copy the messages into an official government account. Nor did respond to the National Archivist initial request for the emails. The DOJ approached the VAR about producing the missing emails to refuse to return records, absent a grant of immunity for the return for the act of returning 6 documents. The National Archives first became aware of Nevada's use of personal email account last year, according the following after the House Select Panel investigating the virus obtaining emails showing the viral use of ProtonMail account for official White House activities. But here's the rub. Or here's the interesting part. The DOJ never went after Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for using her personal email account to avoid FOIA requests. And she was the head of the State Department. Yet another example. If my math is somewhat correct, this is example 17,135,492. Of the hypocrisy of the Democrat Party just this week alone. The corrupt gang never sued Hillary was pointed out yesterday by Tom Fitton, and they blocked anyone looking into it. I want to end with these last 2 interesting stories. They don't quite fit other narratives. Feel free to bow out now if your time is too precious. Listen to this. I don't say that sarcastically, it just you're here for the media, the media stories. I gave them to you already. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button and notification bell, and please check out the realbcp.com. The government is able to do what we can because the government, or that's what they say. For instance, gambling is illegal, but state lotteries are okay, which are tax on the poor and the ignorant. And even after they tax you on that, and they continue to tax you, the winner of the recent $1.337 billion Mega Millions jackpot will most likely pay a hefty tax bill come April of next year. How hefty? Well, the winner will probably not be putting the full $780 million in their bank. Thanks for being here, folks. Big hug. Ciao. Goodbye. God bless.